golf yourself to live session. Let me get straight to the point. My last video was called Why and How to Keep Your Head Still in the Golf Swing, and it raised quite a few questions with my customers. So in this live session, I want to give it a little more clarity as to why we're trying to keep the head still in the swing and its effect on the body position and strike of the ball. So I'm going to get straight to it, and then we're going to answer one of the questions that came up from this video from VJ, who asked, okay, how do I adapt that to the driver? So we'll concentrate on that later. So we get to the sort of geometry and physics of the exercise. First, we want to hit the ball in the sweet spot of the golf club to actually get the maximum transfer of energy from there into the ball, sending it not only up in the air, but as far and as straight as we can. So there's a little bit of geometry to go through here. So first of all, if I think of the equator of the ball here, the only way we're going to get this ball flying is if the leading edge comes underneath the equator. There's point number one. Now, the sweet spot on the club face, so when the ball's lying on the ground, we want to hit that sweet spot, is usually somewhere between the third and the fifth groove on your club face. So here's the difference in sound. I'm going to put this next to my microphone, see if you can hear this. So here's the sweet spot. Nice soft tone, beautiful feel through the shaft into the hands. Here is the bottom of the club. So a harder tone and a harder feel and a lot of vibration up the shaft, not very nice. And here's one off the top of the club where there's not much energy transfer because there's not much weight. So sweet spot, low point, high point. So we want to get the sweet spot to get the maximum transfer of energy. So it's not just hitting the equator and under, it's hitting it with a descending blow to actually get the third and fifth groove. So when the ball's lying on the ground, we want this to happen. We want the club to bottom out just after the ball, and then we take the divot. So we'd start of the reaction when the ground is more or less at the ball or just after the ball, we react with the ground. The low point in a great swing will come slightly later, so low point of the divot is well after the ball, and that we're going to get maximum transfer of energy from the club face, especially if you've got irons with a trampoline effect. So with a thin club face here, you're going to get much more energy transfer, a maximum trampoline effect and maximum distance if we can hit that point. Right, that's what we're trying to do. How the hell do we do that in the swing? Or what's the geometry of the body position relative then to the ball in the strike position to get that? So we have to understand two things here. First of all, sternum, the middle of your rib cage, that's where the hands, basically in a static position, or if I just turn lightly here, this is where the hands are going to reach their low point. So we're likely to get first ground reaction opposite the sternum. But the axis of the point of the golf swing for the right-hand golfer is just behind the left shoulder. All right, so this point here. So that's where, with momentum and extension of the arms, we're going to get the low point of the divot. So it makes sense if in the strike position we have sternum at least up with the ball, maybe even slightly left side of the ball, so first contact with the ground, and then low point after the ball, low point of the divot. That's where we need to be in the strike position to get this beautiful strike of the ball. All right, now, when we're swinging around yourself, bodily wise, it's quite difficult to get this feeling of exactly where these 2 points are relative to the ball. It's much easier, proprioception, your awareness of where the body is in space, it's much easier to feel where your head is relative to that position rather than where your body is relative to that position. And now we come to the whole point of the exercise. So if my head is moving about, it's 3 to 5 kilos up here. We're almost got like half a set of golf clubs up here, just rocking around your neck. So this can influence this. So if we keep the head still, particularly on the backswing, then we've much more chance of bottoming out in the right place. If I'm moving my head, for example, big problem with a lot of my customers is moving their head up and right on the backswing. We'll talk about it a little bit more in a minute, but if we're moving up and right on the backswing with the head, these 2 points, again, sternum and low point, are coming up and back. So if I don't do anything, the low point is very much in the wrong place. It's high and it's right. And I have to do something pretty dramatic on the downswing to get it low and left. So the more the head stays still on the backswing, the more these 2 points stay still relative to the ball, much easier to get the low point in the right place. So that's the relevance of your head position. So basically what we're trying to do then, let me just try and show you this, is relative to space, right? Here's a sort of line on the left side of my head at the start. Sorry, left-hand golfers. Well, I'm just going to deal in right. You're 4% of the world's golfing population. So it makes sense for me to deal with the 96%, but sorry about the right-handed bias here. Right, so if the right-hand golfer, here's your left side of your head. So to stay in contact with the left side, keep the head still, get much more consistency of bottoming out in the right place, what in effect the body is doing or have to do is side bend and forward bend to actually stay still as we rotate the body backwards. So it's going this way as I rotate back. And that's what's keeping the head still, that's what's keeping my body very central to the ball position. Can you feel that as you're swinging the club back? Do we notice how the body side bends and forward bends to stay still? If you can do that, fantastic, but that's very difficult to feel. So it's easier as a reference point to have the head staying still in space and the body react naturally to that, bending sidewards and forwards, rather than worry too much about what the head's doing. So that's why the head relevance is to the ball position is important for ball strike, because it influences the body position relative to the ball at ball strike. So basically we're trying to stay still. And if you watch a Scotty Scheffler, you'll move well forward of the ball there. So again, very little chance of striking the ground before the ball. We have a descending blow on the ball, so ball first, ground second, low point well forwards. You won't see any top professionals moving backwards this way, except maybe with the driver. And we'll come to VJ's question in a minute. Moving backwards, because we're again, sternum, low point, moving backwards, low point in the swing, wrong place. So hopefully that gives some clarity to the importance of your head position as the reference point really for the body. There are other references. Sometimes with my customers, if they're swaying off to the right and they don't feel their head moving, so we have to work with right side a little bit. So basically we're turning, keep hitting the stone in the grass here we go. We're turning around this right thigh bone on the backswing. So a good little exercise is just to put the stab, sorry, German word, we're in Switzerland here, stick in the ground opposite the right leg, and we're just trying to turn inside that. So you see as I do that, the head stays very still. So whether I feel the head is staying still or whether I'm turning around the right thigh bone as the axis, doesn't matter. It's your feeling. The other common one, and one I saw in a golf magazine many years ago with Adam Scott, was his reference to the spine and sort of imagining he had an extension of the spine sticking into the ground. That was his axis, and he's turning around that axis. And we're not breaking that axis either sideways or up and down. Fine, if you can feel what your spine's doing in space, hell, do it. I would argue it's way more easy to feel what your head's doing in space than what your spine or what your leg is doing in space. All right, hopefully that relevance is clear. We have a little bit of logic to the exercise. So VJ's question, let me dig it out of my pocket here from the video. By the way, reference to the video below. The headline is keep your bloody head still, because that's what my father used to say to me all the time. It's what Jack Nicklaus's book, Golf My Way, stated very early when Jack was young. Jack Grout, his coach, used to hang on to his head and he just used to find a way to try and stay stable and swing about it. If the best player of all time was thinking about keeping his head still, there's got to be something in it, right? Okay, anyway, back to VJ's question. He says, first, excellent video. Thanks, VJ. How would this, excellent video, how would this change for a driver swing though? I would imagine your head would be slightly behind the ball since you are tilted that way for the swing. He's got it, well done VJ. So basically on the driver swing, let me change clubs quickly. Okay, basically on the driver swing then, we're not trying to hit the ball before the low point. Ideally, we're hitting the ball from best launch conditions and low backspin. What we're trying to do is hit the ball just after the low point on the start of the upswing. Not too far forward, because then we're going to have directional problems as the curve of the club will swing across it if the ball's too far forward. But we certainly want to be hitting it very much at or under the left shoulder position at strike, or even slightly up on it to actually maximize, optimize launch condition. So absolutely right. So if you notice, first of all, I'll hit an iron shot because I forgot to do that earlier. Live session here, baby. Okay, so live session with the iron. We were talking about sternum and here left side. So I'll do it slow-mo first of all. So there's the head still, then it's very easy to move on to my left side. You'll see sternum is already ahead of the ball, start of low point, lowest of low point, so ground reaction on low point, so we're good. So if we keep the head still, backswing, we move well on the downswing, ball's more or less in the middle of the stance here. Let me just hit one for you. Yeah, it was well struck. If you could see the mat, you'd see that the brushing of the mat starts more or less at the ball and keeps going lower just after the ball. But as VJ says, it's not the ideal strike positions for your driver. So let's tee it up a little bit. Just as a reference, I'll tee it in the same position on the mat, and you'll see that I'll move left. As the ball position moves left, I move right. Let me just get it forward, otherwise I'm going to tow this and knock into the neighbour's garden. So all right, so the ball position's forward. So now you'll notice, obviously, sternum is slightly behind the ball. Low point here would probably reach low point then if I didn't do anything with the spine, and we get a pretty good shot. We'd still be hitting probably slightly down on the ball. So often you see with the driver, as VJ mentioned, a little tilt of the spine. Again, think of that relevance to the sternum and the low point, the axis point. And if we more or less stay there, then again, low point's going to be just before the ball. I hit the ball just at the start of the upswing, and we optimize launch conditions. All right, but still keeping the head still. Again, the head is going to influence these 2 points. All right, get my breath. Talking too much again. Let's just hit one for you. So ball position slightly further forward, the body slightly tilted, but my swing from there is just going to stay the same. So here we go. Yeah, pretty much pured that one. Great. I hope that's given you some clarity to why the head, keeping it still, can influence the body and give you much more consistency in your ball strike because of the conditions it's having through impact, getting underneath the equator, hitting the sweet spot. If the club's got a descending blow on the ball, if we're playing from the ground, and if we've got the ball teed up, slightly different strike position, optimization, I would say, where we take slightly more backspin off the ball. We don't want the ball and a driver doing this. It was always a beautiful thing when I was young. Saw Jack Nicklaus in the Open Championship hitting this beautiful draw up in the air like that, but there's a lot of backspin there. So we're trying to launch optimally, usually 13 to 17 degrees, low backspin, somewhere between 2.5, 3,000, that it climbs but doesn't climb too high. It sort of levels out and then hits the ground with low backspin, so it's going to run far. So that's why we change the strike conditions for driver relative to the irons. So enough talk from me. Thank you for watching. If you've got any questions, pop them down below and I'll be sure to answer them. And just if you want to subscribe to the channel, you probably leave that button there and like this video so I can grow this channel. And you'll see that the whole goal of Golf Yourself to Life is to give back to the environment in the golf course conditions, of courses, planting trees, sticking up bird boxes and beehives. And then as the projects start to grow, money starts to grow, then the nature can profit. Thank you for watching. See you soon. Where's the off button again? Just got to find it somewhere.